The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. This is Comfortably Zoned Radio, and you're listening to the 50s, when bums and jints walk the streets of New York. My name is Peter Trunk, and my friends are with me, as always, Ralph Tycho and Ron Rabinovitz. Ralph, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Peter?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Ronnie, how's everything?
Great. I'm doing great too, Peter.
Great. Okay, good. Last week on this show, we spoke of a bunch of things, and we talked about the New York Rangers in the 1950s and the New York Knickerbockers of the 1950s, and time did not allow us to get to the New York Giants, both baseball and football. Since B comes before F, let's start with baseball first. And I'm going to ask Ronnie Rabinovitz to jump us off the mark here with a little New York Giants baseball.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
You know, the Giants had a magnificent year in 1954. They won the World Series in 4 games. And they had quite a lineup. And it might be fun to talk about some of the players that they had on that team. The catcher was Wes Western. The first baseman was Whitey Lockman. Davey Williams played second. Alvin Dark played short. Hank Thompson played third. And, of course, there was Monty Irvin in left, Willie Mays in center, and Don Mueller in right.
Well,
quite a team.
That was my boyhood team.
Yep.
All the way.
They were tremendous, I'll tell you.
In hindsight, what shocks me about that team, not that they were great or not great or terrible or phenomenal or they were world champions and everything. What shocks me in hindsight about that team is that they had jettisoned Mr. New York Giant of only 3 years before. They sent him to the Braves, and that's Bobby Thompson.
Braves, yeah. Bobby
Thompson was no longer in New York. He was no longer a New York Giant in 1954.
Right. He ended up in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. I saw him play there.
Johnny Antonelli. Yeah.
Yeah. And they had a hell of a
Johnny Antonelli trade pretty much made the Giants of 54 world champions.
Right.
He had a terrific.
Johnny Antonelli was tremendous. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was. And then they had Ruben Gomez.
Ruben pulled the year out of himself, and that was great. A very strange man, Ruben Gomez. I remember him getting into it with Joe Adcock.
Yeah, and he ran all the way to the center field clubhouse, didn't he?
He chased him into the clubhouse, and
that was in Milwaukee.
Came out with a shiv of some sort.
Right, that's right. That was in Milwaukee.
Himself.
I was at that game. I was at that game.
Really?
Adcock chased it. Yep, he chased him right into the dugout. And Adcock was a big guy. He was a big guy.
Oh, you wouldn't want to mess with Joe Adcock. He was right up there in strength with.
Joe Adcock was a maniac. Yeah, big, strong man.
Yeah, he was like a blacksmith. He was. Yeah.
Like a blacksmith. Yeah. I remember when he hit a home run over the roof in left field at Ebbets Field. Over the roof.
Joe Adcock?
Yeah.
And he was one of the very few to hit a home run into the center field bleachers at the Polo Grounds.
Yes.
It was like 480 feet away.
It was a long ways, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he hit one there?
Yes, he did. He hit one there.
Okay.
But ironically, in a game that I saw, Lou Brack, while playing with the Cubs, hit one into the center field bleachers, weighing about 145 pounds at the time.
Yeah.
And he just...
That's amazing.
He hit one right, muscled up. That was the first game of a doubleheader in which the famous instance of Marv Throneberry hitting a triple and missing first base, and they called him out.
Mm-hmm.
Casey Stengel came out to protest, and Cookie Lavagetto said, "Don't worry about it, Casey. He missed second base as well. So
right. That's funny.
Forget about winning this one."
That's a funny story.
Yeah,
it is.
That was a doubleheader I went to alone as a kid.
Wow.
In June of 1962.
62.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of pitcher was Jim Hearn?
Long time ago, gentlemen. Long time ago. But 1954 was even further back, and
yeah, right.
Good memories. Leo's last hurrah with the Giants. He managed a few more years, and he just was never into it unless he had a potential winner.
Right.
And he was fired. Bill Rigney took over. Bill Rigney became the last manager of the New York Giants.
Yeah.
The first manager of the San Francisco Giants.
San Francisco Giants, yeah. Right. He was a good manager, wasn't he, Ralph?
Managing is so subjective.
Right.
Anybody says, well, this was a good manager, this is a bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? He seemed, they didn't win with him, but, and he pissed off Willie because Leo had coddled him so much.
Yeah, sure.
That, any other manager that would come in that wouldn't pay him homage every day and stroke his ego wasn't going to make it in Willie's eyes. And there were a whole bunch of extenuating circumstances in Willie's life. He had a tough marriage he was going through. The transition from New York to San Francisco wasn't particularly easy. Both things happened. Two things happened. He had a hard time buying a house in a good neighborhood in San Francisco.
In San Francisco, yeah.
Color of his skin.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can imagine, that would tend to piss anybody off.
Sure.
And embittered him, combined with the marriage thing and Leo DeRocher's departure, and being treated just like special, but not as special as Leo treated him.
Sure.
It was a tough time, and when the Giants first came to San Francisco, the fans didn't accept him as readily as they did Orlando Cepeda, who was a homegrown kid, as it were.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it took him a while, but they finally warmed to him, and, Willie was Willie.
Willie was Willie. Tremendous ball player. Tremendous.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that's most tragic about the Giants and Dodgers leaving New York. We didn't get to see him in his prime.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Part of it. So, there you go. That's,
Anytime Jim Hearn, was he a good pitcher? Jim Hearn?
Ends up, pardon me?
Jim Hearn, was he a good pitcher?
Jim Hearn came from the Phillies originally, or seemed to pitch every time I went to a game. Jim Hoyne, they called him, was pitching, but he was pretty solid. He was pitched better in 51, if I recall, than
I think you're right.
54.
Yeah.
They had Larry Chanson, Sal Magley.
Oh my God, they did. Sal Magley. They had Don Lytle. Was it Lytle?
Yeah, Don Little.
Don Little's the guy who gave up Wirtz's drive to center field that Mays caught over his head.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Don Little was the pitcher, and when DeRocher came out after that catch and the sensational throw back to the infield, DeRocher called timeout, walked to the mound to take the left-hander out, bring in the right-hander to pitch to the next batter, and Little said to the guy as he came in, "I got my man."
Marv Grissom was the closer, wasn't he?
Uncle Marv, yes.
Yeah. And Hoyt Wilhelm was a relief pitcher.
Yeah.
Larry Jensen. Yeah. And Al Worthington was on that team too.
Yeah, his team was red.
Yes, Hal Worthington was pretty solid on that team. He was he left the team when it came known that the Giants were stealing signs.
Yeah.
He was I would, I'm not going to classify a born-again Christian or this, that, and the, you can't use those words, but he was fairly pious, and he
didn't go for them.
refused to go along with it. I think he has to be traded, and this, that, and the other thing. Red Worthington, that was his name.
Red.
Yep. And you had a Minnesota guy there, too, by the name of Paul Giel.
Oh, yes, the quarterback.
Yeah.
The quarterback from the University of Minnesota.
For the Gophers, right.
He was a bonus boy. The reason he was up is because in those days, if a guy made a bonus in excess of X amount of dollars, I think it was $50,000, which, believe me, was a lot of money in those days.
It was.
They had to stay on the big league roster for 2 years.
Sandy Koufax.
Giants had Joey Malfitano and Paul Giel, both basically wasting spots on the big league roster.
Sure.
Yeah, they played with 23 guys, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Basically.
They didn't have a 25-man roster, right?
Well, they did.
Yeah, they
those
did.
Two guys were rookies. And
those two guys negated
it.
They should have been in the minors.
Absolutely. But, when you think about it, Sandy Koufax was one of those bonus boys that had a strong time.
And I think the limit was 20,000, if I'm not mistaken, not 50.
Okay.
I think you're right, Peter.
I think you're right.
More than likely you're right, because 50 sounds like an outrageous amount.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Paul Giel had an 8.31 ERA that year.
Yeah, that wasn't.
He only pitched
he went on, as I tell Al Blumpkin, a Pirates fan, when the Pirates won in '60, he was on that team and gave them some good innings. So
yes, he did. Yeah.
And here's one more bit of trivia, and then I'm going to shut up because I hate the sound.
No, this is interesting.
Paul Giel and Joey Amalfitano were nicknamed Jingles and Jangles by the
really?
Because of the money jingling in their pockets.
Right, the money.
So that's just an interesting.
That's a good bit of trivia. That's a good bit of trivia. And Giel, like you said, went on to become a world champion Pittsburgh Pirate, along with a couple of Dodgers, Simoli and Hoke.
Right, Don Hoke.
Right, that's right.
That's right.
Crazy.
Did Clem Labine pitch with the Pirates at one time?
You know what? He might have.
I don't remember that, but
he might have. He might have.
It's possible.
He might have even been on that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he might have been on that World Championship team. I don't know if he was eligible for the World Series, but during the summer, I think I remember him pitching for them.
And then you had a pinch hitter by the name of Dusty Rhodes. Boy, was he!
Oh boy!
Oh boy! He was a character as well.
Oh, was he good? Unbelievable.
Ended up captaining a tugboat in New York City.
Huh. Joe Garagiola was on that team in '54.
Yeah.
Yes, but he wasn't eligible for the World Series, ironically.
Oh,
he was acquired after September 1st.
Yeah.
And the rosters were frozen.
And Bob Lemon, too.
Who really?
Bob Lemon.
Bob Lemon?
Yep.
Bob Lennon, not Bob Lemon.
You're not talking about Bob Lemon, the Hall of Fame pitcher. You're talking about Bob Lennon.
It was Lennon, like John Lennon.
As in the Beatles, John Lennon. Bob Lennon.
Right. I'm sorry.
He was an outfielder. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So a very limited duty.
Right. And sans Yoko. You gotta give him some credit for taste.
Yeah. It was a good team. It was a very good team.
Yeah, absolutely. let's talk a little football. Most people don't remember that when the New York baseball Giants were in town, they used to refer to the New York football Giants as just that.
Yes, they did.
There was a distinction, and it took football until that game in 1956, that overtime game
58
against the Colts.
That was 58.
To really take hold. It took that long until and then the TV contract came in with Rozelle and all of that. But the 50s, those Giant teams were incredibly interesting.
They were.
I'd like to start, if I may, with the defensive four on that team.
Oh, they were big.
Everybody who's a Giant fan remembers Cat Cabbage, Modulewski, Robustelli, and Greer.
Yep.
And my God, they were great.
They were good.
Peter, what do you remember about those guys?
I remember that on goal line stands. Remember goal line stands?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Goal line stands. When the other team would be down inside the 5 with a first down, the Giants used to bring in, you ready for this? They used to bring in Rosie Brown.
That's right.
Yes.
They used to bring in Rosie Brown for their goal line stands. I remember those teams. That game that you're referring to that put the NFL on the map, the overtime sudden death loss at Yankee Stadium by the Giants to the Colts, 23-17. The week before that,
running through a hole that my grandmother could have gotten through.
Yes, with her wheelchair.
With her wheelchair.
Right. The week before, the Giants had shut out the vaunted Cleveland Browns 10-0 to get to that championship game. Here's what I remember about the New York Football Giants. Here's what I remember. First of all, my Jets weren't around yet. Right. They weren't born yet. Neither were the Titans. They weren't born yet. So when I was a young fella, and baseball was over, the World Series was over, I turned my eyes to other sports. I followed the Rangers, I followed the Knicks, but I also followed the New York Football Giants. Now, I was too young to follow the 1950 New York Giants, but let me just tell you about the 1950 New York Giants because there's some interesting things that I'd like to mention. First of all, they played all their games at the Polo Grounds, their home games. They finished 10-2. They had a quarterback, number 42. That should resonate with you, Ronnie, number 42, Charlie Connerly. All right, Chuck and Charlie. Okay, Chuck and Chuck Connerly. Their head coach was a guy named Steve Owen. And they lost the playoff in 1950 to the Cleveland Browns. But I want to mention a game that they played during the regular season. Now, I looked up all of their games, and they would draw 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. Okay? This is the NFL. This is not your daddy's NFL. This is your grandpa's NFL. This was 1950. This was 68 years ago. Okay? On December the 3rd, in Yankee Stadium, in the Polo Grounds, in the Polo Grounds, the New York Football Giants beat the New York Yankees 51-7 in front of 41,630.
Wow.
Now, you might think, well, wait a minute. Hold it. Time out. Peter Trunk must be drinking. The New York Yankees. I thought we were talking about football. Well, there was a team in Boston called the Boston Yankees.
Okay.
And they played in the NFL. And in 1949, Kate Smith, remember Kate Smith, the singer?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Kate Smith's manager bought the Boston Yanks under the stipulation, in 1949, that he moved the team to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the Giants wanted to block that. They didn't want another team in New York.
Sure.
But he got his way, and the New York Yankees football team played in Yankee Stadium.
In Yankee Stadium.
In Yankee Stadium, 1950 and 1951. In 1952, they went back to be known as the New York Bulldogs, and they switched to the Polo Grounds. But anyway, that game, December the 3rd in 1950, the New York Giants beat the New York Yankees 51-7 in front of 41,630. They had beaten the Yankees earlier that year, like 37-13, 33-17, something like that. But 51-7 on December the 3rd.
Wow.
You said they went back to being the New York Bulldogs. Were they
they
Bulldogs in Boston?
No, New York Bulldogs.
They were
the Boston Yankees at that time?
No, when they were in Boston, did they start out as the Boston Yankees or the Boston Bulldogs?
Boston Yanks.
Oh, okay. So they just changed their name to the Bulldogs. And
yes,
did they
to come to New York.
banned after the 52 season?
Banned after the 51 season. In 52, they were back to being the Bulldogs, but they played in New York as the New York Bulldogs.
Okay, and after that, did they simply disband, or they
yes.
went somewhere else?
They actually became, you're not going to believe this, they became the Dallas Texans.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
How interesting.
Not the Dallas Texans. Oh no, that's in the NFL. I'm thinking about the Dallas Texans who used to come in to play the Titans.
Right.
In the early years of the NFL.
That was the AFL, right?
AFL, rather.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And I guess eventually they ended up disbanding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. I never knew there were two football teams in New York. I didn't remember that. Little young for as you said.
Yeah, I know. We were only 4. We were only 4 years old. In 1951, the Giants, still under Steve Owen, went 9-2-1. They played the Polo Grounds again. Connerly was their quarterback again. In 52, they were 7-5. Owen was still their coach. They still played in the Polo Grounds. Connerly was their quarterback.
I'll bet Emlyn Tunnell was with them by then.
He might have been.
Yeah.
Who was their running back?
Mel Triplett.
That was
Gifford.
later. I don't think Triplett was around.
Frank Gifford, Alec Webster.
Frank Gifford, yeah. Well, Sam Huff
Joe Morrison later on.
Yeah, well, that was later on. In 53, they plummeted down to 3-9. Connerly was still their quarterback. In 54, still playing in the Polo Grounds, but under a brand new coach, Jim Lee Howell. He was the coach that wore the big overcoat, the long overcoat. And his offensive coordinator was a guy named Vince Lombardi. And his defensive coordinator was a guy named Tom Landry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and the quarterback was still Connerly. In 1955, their last year in the Polo Grounds, they went 6-5-1. Jim Lee Howell was still the coach. Don Heinrich. Ralph, you've got to remember Don Heinrich.
Absolutely.
Don Heinrich started 8 games, and Connerly only started 4 games. In 1956.
Gifford was on that depth chart at quarterback for a while.
Well, there was a lot of option plays, and as a halfback, he threw a lot of passes.
Right.
Frank Gifford did.
Yes, he did. And he was good at it,
in 1956, the team moved into Yankee Stadium and won everything. They won the championship against the Chicago Bears 47-7.
Oh, I remember watching that at age 10. Wow.
Yeah, me too.
The Bears come back and beat them the following year. Just smother them.
I think they did. Eddie O'Branovich.
Yeah.
And,
Willie Gall.
Big Papa Bear, George Hallis.
Bill Jones. Oh. Yep.
Yeah, there was
George Blanda was with them.
teams.
Yep, that's right.
Now, to show you how the game has changed, the 1956 Giants, who won it all, Don Heinrich started all 12 games.
No kidding.
But, wait a minute, Connerly threw 174 passes to Heinrich's 88 passes.
Why would that be?
Yeah, they would bring
because Connerly, he would start the game, but Connerly would come in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And listen to this. This is a 12-game season.
Right.
Connerly threw 174 times, and Heinrich threw 88 times. That's about 260 passes in 12 games.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Unbelievable.
Is that amazing or what?
Yeah,
they ran the ball. They ran the ball.
Sure.
Not like today's game where they pass 95% of the time.
No.
In 57, they went 7-5. Connerly and Heinrich shared the quarterback again. In 58, that's when they lost to the Colts in that overtime game. And in 59, their last season of the 50s, they lost to the Colts 31-16. Connerly started 10 games. If you're thinking, where the hell was Y.A. Tittle? He didn't come until 1961.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Traded for a pretty good tackle, Don Corleone.
Yeah.
Not.
San Francisco 49ers.
Right. They ripped the Niners off on that one. And
right.
They got 2 or 3 great years out of Tittle. Tittle and Schaffner and those guys were just terrific.
Remember the 49ers' great running back, Leo Namalini?
Yep.
He wasn't a running back. He was a tackle.
Was he? I thought he was a running back. Who was their great running back out there?
They had, it was Hugh McElhenney for a while.
Hugh McElhenney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I guess that was as good as they got, Hugh McElhenney.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah.
And later went on to be a Giant his last year or two in football. McElhenney. But, Namalini was...
Namalini was a tackle? Wow.
Tackle.
Yeah, well, you see, sometimes my memory works, and sometimes it works a little rusty.
Peter, it works more often than not, let's put it that way.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Thank God other parts of my body work a little bit more reliably.
Well, yes, and as long your memory has to work long enough, as long as you remember, green light, go. Red light, stop.
Right. That's right.
Exactly.
That's all you need.
If you could just remember those 2 things, that could be life extending.
There you go.
Right. That's right.
I love it. That's funny.
Oh, this is great.
You don't have to remember everything, but just the important things.
Ralph, let me ask you a question. Yes. When you were a kid, before the Jets and the Titans, before Joe Willie and all of that stuff, Eubank and all of that stuff, were you in fact a Giants fan?
Oh, absolutely. I used to listen to Ali Sherman's show on Tuesday night. He had a chalkboard TV show.
Yes, he did.
And it was so informative. He'd have guys, Darryl Dess, the guards on, and he'd talk about the pulling guards and their jobs and stuff.
Jack Stroud was the other guard. Jack Stroud was the other guard besides Darryl Dess.
Right.
Stroud was 62, Darryl Dess was 66. I remember the numbers and everything.
Ray Whitetecker was the center.
Number 55.
Okay.
I remember all of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ralph, I
Rosie
used to
one
sit.
tackle. Who was the other tackle? The other offensive tackle.
I used to know all of these guys by heart, and I knew the colleges they went to. I'm drawing a blank on the other tackle.
I am too. But Jack Stroud was a nice pull.
Yes.
And Yeah, and then they went downhill in a very big way.
I know who the other tackle was. Rosie Brown. Rosie Brown was the other tackle.
Who was the other tackle then, besides Rosie Brown?
Got me. I don't know. You got me. I know the center, the 2 guards, and 1 tackle. That's all I know.
Okay.
Damn.
Well, you know what? After 55 years or 60 years, whatever it's been, it's pretty damn good, Peter.
True.
Now, if you could only remember where you left your keys.
There you go.
Right.
Keys?
Right.
Keys?
What I had for breakfast.
Or what? As long as you can remember what are keys, that helps.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, my car doesn't take a key. My present car doesn't take a key. No. Push button. Push button.
Wow.
It doesn't either.
Yeah.
Oh,
weird.
Well, I'll be darned.
You know, talking about following the football giants, when I was a little kid, I used to sit, my mother and father had actually it should have been in the living room, but it was not. It couldn't fit. And my mother had it in the corner of the dining room, believe it or not. This huge piece of mahogany furniture. And it was a record player and a radio. And it stood about 4 feet high, and she put stuff on top of it, like vases with flowers in it and stuff like that. But this was actually a radio with a record player in it. And when the Giants were on the radio, because they were home, if they were playing at home, their games were blacked out where I lived. So I had to listen on the radio. I used to sit on the floor in front of the radio and listen to the New York Giant game. In one game, they played in the snow. They played it in the driving snowstorm, and Marty Glickman was given the play-by-play. And Glickman gave such a fantastic play-by-play. He was like Red Barber and Vince Scully. He was the greatest.
Absolutely, he was
the greatest. He gave such a picture that when I sat there, I could see the snow. And he actually said, Chandler is going to come on and try a field goal. The best I can guess is that it's going to be from about 47 yards out. But the field is covered with snow, so that's just a guess. Here's the snap. Holds it down. There's the kick. It's up end over end, and it's good. And the Giants win. Okay, years and years and years later, when I was not even a young man anymore, I was an old codger. I was watching highlights of the NFL on ESPN or ESPN whatever, and they showed that damn game. They showed where Chandler came in and kicked the field goal from in the snow from about the 47, but no one really knew. And I finally saw it. You want to know something? Marty Glickman gave me the exact picture, because when I finally saw it all those years later, that's exactly the way Glickman described it to my ears, and I heard it, and I saw it in my mind's eye.
Wow. Nice. Wasn't Summerall that came in? Because Chandler didn't become a kicker. He was a punter and might have become a kicker later.
Well, before all of them was Ben Agajanian, number 3.
Now, you go back further than I do.
Okay, Ben Agajanian was the place kicker. He was number 3. And then came Chandler and Summerall. Now, Chandler and Summerall, if my memory serves, and my memory is in a slump right now during this show, but I'm gonna say this, that for the first year or two, for the first season or two, that these two gentlemen shared a roster spot. One of them did the punting, and one of them did the place kicking. And I believe Summerall started, when he came there, he did the place kicking. Now, I could be way, way wrong about that, but that's the way my mind remembers it. Summerall on the roster was listed as an end. I don't know what Chandler was listed as.
I think he might. I think, yeah. I don't I don't know, but I remember that Chandler took over both punting and place kicking after Summerall left.
Yeah.
Is what I remember.
That sounds right to my ears. Ralph. And, that really does. It sounds right to my ears. I remember, and Ralph, like we said before, when we talk about the 1950 Giants or the 51 Giants football team, we were too young to remember those teams.
56.
But I will tell you this. I'm sure you remember, and Ronnie's got to remember this NFL style thing. When we first started watching the games, some guys didn't have any face protection whatsoever. And other guys just had one bar going around.
Yep. In
front of the face.
Mm-hmm.
One bar.
Pages.
Right. Many of the quarterbacks had nothing. Bobby Lane, guys like that. They had nothing. They had no protection in front.
Exactly.
It was weird. Very weird to see that.
Different breed of cat. All World War II veterans coming back. And
yeah.
You know, no coddling.
And the Giants, the football Giants, were one of the few charter teams in NFL. With the Bears, the Packers, I think the Browns, and there were a few others.
They were one of the few what teams?
You know, one of the beginning teams of the NFL.
Oh, yeah, the originals.
The Bears, the Packers, the Browns.
Philadelphia Eagles, I think, were right there.
Steelers.
Washington.
And the Lions, maybe. I think that was it. Yeah. Unbelievable.
People don't remember the Chicago Cardinals.
I do.
Yes, Ali Madsen.
Yep.
Ali Madsen.
That's right.
How about the Cleveland Rams? You remember the Cleveland Rams?
No.
Bob Waterfield was that? Yeah. I don't
Before
remember
they went
them.
to L.A.
I remember reading about them.
Before they went to L.A. Isn't it funny, in our lifetime, they were the Cleveland Rams, the L.A. Rams, the St. Louis Rams, and now back to L.A. Rams.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Strange.
Wow, it is strange.
Good memories, guys.
Yeah, nice. I liked it.
Memories.
Good.
Okay, so we covered the Giants. We covered the Giants, both football and baseball.
Yes, we did.
We might have been a little light on the baseball side. I will say this, that in 1951 the Giants won the pennant and Willie Mays played on their team. In 1952 and 1953 Willie Mays was in the Army and the Giants did not win the pennant. And in 1954 when Willie returned, the Giants won the pennant. Now that could be total mere coincidence, or maybe it isn't. I don't know.
Oh,
but that's something else to chew on.
I think it has something to do.
Willie could pick up a team and just simply carry it.
Mm-hmm. He could.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
He could. He was phenomenal.
You two both paid great homage to the Giants, considering you're Dodger fans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So I give you a lot of credit. And great show, guys.
Yep. I liked it. I had a good time.
I did too.
I'd like to thank, this is Peter Trunk saying, I'd like to thank my friends, Ron Rabinovitz and Ralph Tycho, for joining me again tonight and making it a fun time, talking about those old New York Giants, both on the baseball field and the football gridiron. And we had a blast. We hope our listening audience likes the show, and we'll see you all back here again next week. I think Ralph wants to talk about used books before we leave the airways. Ralph?
Yeah, if you could do us all a favor and box up some gently used children's books and take them to the Head Start program in wherever you are, basically. Kids need to read. They need these books to become school ready, to develop imaginations, to get their noses out of the devices and the computers. And the kids that Head Start program helps really need help because they do. So box them up, take them down there, and you'll feel better. I'll know it somehow. I'll feel the vibes.
It's a great cause. Yes.
It really is.
Absolute great cause.
Yeah.
The kids are our only hope. And
that's right.
that's the way it is.
Sure.
People in power recently tend to want to keep us stupefied.
Mm-hmm.
And they will if you let them.
Right.
They're cutting back on education. They're cutting back on social services. They're cutting back on humanity. It's got to be head off. We got to head it off some way.
Absolutely.
And the best way I can think of is to get kids school ready, prepared, literate, able to raise their hand when they go into kindergarten in a positive way and get attention in a positive way, and that'll carry through.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, if they're not ready, if they fall behind, they'll stay behind. Just the way life is. Give them a head start. That's what it means. Mm-hmm. So do that for us. It'll make all three of us happy.
Yes.
It'd be great.
Peter, thank you, gentlemen.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
As always, have a great night and see you back here next week.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We'll be back. Thanks, everybody.